again, everybody, and welcome. I'm on my little tiny laptop. As you can see, I'm inside today. I'll tell you why in just a minute. Feel free, while we're waiting for folks to join us, to say hi in the chat and let me and everyone else know where you are joining from. Pick up my whole setup here and see if I can rotate a little bit. Better lighting. There we go. Let us know where you're joining from. Right. Yeah, and the weather. That's pretty cool too. Oh my gosh, Jared Hay from South Africa. Huzzah.
I don't know.
Pretty cool. So welcome. My name's Bridget Butler, aka the Bird Diva. I'm coming at you from northwestern Vermont.
Oh yeah.
Where the Mizipsquawick, still working on my Abenaki, runs into Batabawak, which is Lake Champlain. The Western Abenaki Missisquoi tribe is still very active in our community here in northwestern Vermont. And because I teach about land and connecting with the land through our love of birds, I like to know about the land and know the history of the land. And part of that for me has really been exploring more about the indigenous peoples of this area and how they cared for the land. And if that's something that you've been working on, feel free to share that in the chat as well. Look at that. We got great reports of snow coming in from all over the Northeast. In northwestern Vermont, we have about, I think we're approaching 12 inches right now of fresh snow, which has been really, really delightful. And as you see me look up, I'm looking out my window and a very gorgeously ploofed up bright red male cardinal is sitting, just hopefully checking in on our guided sit spot session today. That's really nice. All right. This is exciting. Folks from Switzerland, from California. This is great. Yes, Tina, I think that's a great point. Please mute if you can so that we're not getting your background sound. Feel free to turn off your camera too. If you're not comfortable with the camera being on, that's all right as well. Wonderful. Folks from Milwaukee, Newcastle, Maine, so good. You are in the right spot. This is First Friday live guided slow birding session with me, Bridget. I'm also known as the Bird Diva. You can find out more information about my slow birding work at my website, which is birddiva.com. I'm going to share a couple things with folks here as we wait for people to join us. There were over 180 people signed up for this, which is over the course of all the different sessions that I'll be holding, but that's pretty exciting. If you like this and you have a really good time, I am offering it for free, and I'm so happy to do that because this is important to me to share some different ways to bird. But there are times when some of the different programs that I offer could use a little bit of support, or times when I have to boost my Zoom account. And one of the ways you can help support other groups and being able to participate when maybe they don't have the funds, or support the boosting so that we can get as many people on these live sits, is to donate. And I do have a donate button on my website where you could do that. I want to thank the folks that have already donated. This was a new thing for me to try, and I was really excited to see that people are like, yeah, this is worth it for me. So thank you for doing that. Let's see, there was another thing that I wanted to make sure I shared. So if you missed the first one, it's number 2. The first one, I'm trying to record all of these and make sure that they end up online. And so I do have a YouTube channel where you can go back and look at some of the other ones. The first one really I did a little bit more in giving folks kind of an introduction to what a sit spot is and what you can bring and where you can place your sit spot. So you can check that out at my YouTube channel. There's Dawn. Dawn and I have been emailing this morning about the frenetic energy of birds at feeders. And so you can see I'm inside today. We had a snowstorm come through in New England, dumped a lot of snow. It's a little too snowy and blowy for me to try to be out with all my broadcasting gear today. So I'm inside, and what's great is I'm in a room that is pretty much all windows to the left of me and then out in front of me. And it's where we've set up a space. I've got cozy chairs right here, 2 little kind of bucket chairs to sit. We have our feeders. Let's see if I can spin and my camera will adjust a little bit. You can see I've got a window feeder, and then there's my neighbor's house and bird feeders out there. And I have another window feeder that is straight in front of me. I'm in a Vermont city urban space. So we have neighbors all around us. And everybody's out snow blowing today, and kids are playing outside. And watch me just watch that northern cardinal just spin by here in front of the windows. But the birds are active. And what I wanted to be able to share with you today is a way to have a sit spot indoors, so that you can have both and shift between both of them. So when you have days like this, you can still practice and get your 20 minutes or so in. And so what we'll do today is basically I want to get you prepped for a cozy indoor sit spot and tell you about what I like to do when I prepare to sit down and notice in my indoor space. I want to share a quote with you. A lot of times, the things that we read, whether it's poetry or different snippets from nature writing, can often be portals into connection. And so I think moving forward, I'd like to share a quote with all of you each week. And you can use that quote at your sit spot while you sit to reflect, especially if there's no birds present, right? And if not, I'm going to give you some other things to try. Today, we are going to try a 10-minute segment where you can step off camera for a bit and kind of slow bird on your own. And then we'll gather back together. I'm going to stay on camera during that time and do something that's kind of similar to being a sportscaster. And I'm going to give you the play-by-play of what's happening in my backyard and kind of like what is happening in my brain and how what my process is like for observing birds. Okay, so we're up to 70 people. Yay, you guys, huzzah, what a great group. So on a wintry day, like I said, my sit spot is in a nice little corner where I have a great view of my yard. I do have feeders set up. We did a little bit of shoveling today. I like to keep it cozy. So I've got blankets that I snuggle up with, right? They're right here so that you can sit. Sometimes there's a draft coming in the window, so it's nice to be able to snuggle down. Got a nice hot drink. I don't know about you, but my 2 favorite drinks from when I am outside during the winter and I'm on my sit spot are peppermint and ginger tea. They just have this warming quality to them. And the sensory smell when you take a sip too is really delightful. So think about that. How do you make yourself cozy in your sit spot and ready to be attentive and in that observation state? The other thing that I like to bring, and we talked about this a little bit before, is a notebook. I have a nice little Write in the Rain notebook. I'm excited to let you guys know that I am working with the folks at Lifeless Notebooks to create a small pocket notebook that's like a little slow burning notebook. So those will be coming out probably within the next few months and be available to folks. My last entry here, and we did this last time and I carried it on. I was like, ooh, I'm going to keep doing this. My last entry is from a couple of weeks ago when it was -1 and I was observing from inside. And I did Let me see if I can get this in the camera really good. I did a little drawing of what my window looks like with the other pair of binoculars sitting there. And I was kind of happy with this drawing. Most of the time I don't like my drawings, but this was really nice. And it was a nice, relaxing way. And what's interesting is one of the questions that is here in the journal is, what is my resting heart rate while I'm journaling? I felt really super relaxed. And so I think that's another thing to kind of pay attention to. All right, Joanne. Joanne's like throwing it down. She's like, I got juncos, goldfinches, doves, jays, a red-bellied woodpecker, white-breasted nuthatch, chickadee. I just saw some birds fly in. They look like they're feeding on the ground, and we'll get to those in just a minute or two. So you might want to have a journal with you today too. Let's see. Oh, this was the other thing I wanted to share. So Don reached out to me this morning about bird feeders and the birds at the feeders and how they were behaving. I've had some other folks this week talk to me about being released from the pressure of having to go see something rare and different. And I just want to encourage you. Ooh, 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 there's some action coming in. This is great. I want to encourage you to give yourself permission to enjoy what's in front of you in the moment. When I do it was from a slow burning presentation that I did last night. Somebody said to me, thank you for helping me identify and relieve the pressure of having to always find something new to feel like my birding practice was going to be valued. And I was like, oh, yes, that's it. So let go of that. We're going to let go of that today. Let go of like the counting mode. I got to count how many goldfinches are here and just enjoy that they're all coming into this wonderful little shrub that I planted purposefully right outside my window right now. All right. Ronique's watching a bald eagle perched on a block away being harassed by a crow. So you have a nice vantage point. And you know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of one more thing that I'm going to show you before I share the quote for today and we get into a little session together. So, and it's probably backwards, I think, maybe by the way you're viewing it. But on the wall behind me here is our big giant Post-it note that is our backyard big year list. And today I got really excited as I was setting up to see what the camera angle would be like in this room and the lighting. The common raven that has showed up in our neighborhood flew right over the top of the house. And it was the first time this year that I've been in the house or on our land, on our little postage stamp of land here in St. Albans City. And I got to see the raven. So that's number 20 up on there is common raven for today. I know, I'm like, yay. February 4th, I finally got to add it. So this is a practice that I've been doing for about 8 years now. And my family's involved in it too. You probably can't see this, but there is some kid handwriting up there as well. And so now that they're old enough, it's really fun for them to be able to contribute birds. So the idea is to just be watching birds through the seasons from your sit spot, either inside or outside, or man, even when we're on the ice rink, we've had some really great sightings from the ice rink that we have in our backyard. But keeping track of those, and you really get to know the diversity of species that are on your property, and you get a chance to kind of be ready for them as they come back in. Yay, all the birds are coming back into the yard right now. Super. I love how you guys are putting things in the chat box already. You can see what other people are noticing and checking out. So some great stories coming through there. I love this. This is what this is all about. Okay. It's about all of us kind of sharing our sightings. Oh, good. So Nita's got most fun bird right now is a Carolina wren on one of the suet feeders. So I've been wondering about wrens right now because my wren comes in to the little window feeders here and just throws everything around and out of the feeder. And it made me stop and wonder, why is it doing that? And why isn't it just grabbing a seed and opening it? And so I have to do a little bit more research on wrens and how they need to open seeds or food items, my thought is that maybe he's tossing or she's tossing stuff around so they can get to the uncovered seeds that are in the bottom of the feeder. That's what I'm thinking is going on. All right, let's grab a quote for today. This is from a really beautiful book by, and I'm going to get Lynn Thompson. It's called Birding with Yeats, a Mother's Memoir. It's about her birding with her son, and I love this. So she says, and I'm going to put this in the chat for you. This is something that you can reflect on when we do our 10 minutes on our own. So she says, I think the most important quality in a bird watcher or a birder is a willingness to stand quietly and to see what comes. Our everyday lives obscure a truth about existence, that at the heart of everything, there lies a stillness and a light. And I don't know about you, but today is a snow day at my house. And so my 3 kids are home. I have a very vocal Siamese cat who luckily is sleeping right near me right now. And I have a small Westie. And so on days like today, sometimes it is hard to grab that time and slow down and find that stillness. So I'm going to allow for the craziness if it starts. The cat might start yelling, and I'm going to be all right with that. We'll figure out what to do. And the kids might come in here and stomp around at some point, and that's fine too. And what I'll just keep trying to do is come back to that stillness, enjoying the light that's coming through the windows, and being here with you and talking about what we're noticing. All right. So here's my general practice of how I start this. I'm inside, so I'm gonna get myself super cozy. And I encourage you to do the same thing. Grab your journal, because we'll launch into a little 10-minute on your own session while I do a little bit of sports casting. I'm just gonna click through here. I see some, like, there's familiar, I gotta do the romper room thing for a minute. So I see Rita, yeah, hi Rita. Some other folks I recognize from some of my classes. There's Wendy. Oh, this is so great. Lots of familiar faces and lots of new people too. Welcome everybody. All right. So hopefully you're getting cozy and you're all set. And I've got to put my glasses on too so I can see. I've got my binoculars nearby, so we're all set. Hey there, Northern Cardinal just came back in. All right. Oh, and the first thing that I always try to do when I sit down is let everything else go. And you may have some different ways that you like to do this. I really like to pay attention to how my body's feeling. And if I'm all up in here, I need to take a minute to like let those shoulders relax. Maybe stretch your neck a little bit. Take a couple of deep breaths. Sink into your chair in your cozy spot. Oh, I'm scanning the scene. Letting that breath like completely come out. If I could crack the window, I would probably be able to smell that winter air and that snow. Maybe some of you are brave enough to be outside on a super wintry day. Maybe you're in another hemisphere and you're not in the winter season right now, so you can be outside as well. So I want you to be kind and gentle with yourself. And I know things are going to pop into your brain. And what I start to do, because I feel like I'm gerbil wheeling all the time, is I'm like, that's great. I'm going to let that go, put that over here for a while, because right now what I want to do is relax and be in connection with the birds and the snow that's falling and the light in the sky. And so today what we're going to try to do is shift out of that mode of maybe when you sit at your feeder, you count birds and you're making a list right away. Maybe you're hoping and wishing. I know I've been hoping and wishing for pine siskins to come in. So the birds are starting to flood in from the wooded edge of our backyard. And they're starting to come into the feeders again. I have a platform feeder here. So when you see me sit back, that's why, because I'm seeing some at the platform. So what we're going to do, and this is where I'm going to ask you if, or invite you, actually, you don't have to do this, but you can turn off your camera. We're going to go for 10 minutes. I'm going to sportscast from my site, so feel free to stay tuned in, or if you want to mute my talking so that you can totally focus on what's outside for you or near you in this moment, you can do that as well. But I want you to bring 3 things back to our conversation before we wrap up. So 3 things that you notice either about the birds or about the landscape in this 10-minute time period. Ways that I keep that gerbil wheel birder science conservation brain kind of at rest during this time is in my journal. I like to do a little quick list of the birds that I'm seeing. So I quickly get that identification, that analytical left side of the brain stuff out of the way. And down the side of my journal, I use the 4-letter bird codes or my own shorthand to just write down all the things that I'm seeing. And that way, then I can let go and I can notice other things. So I have that list, I get that listing drive out of the way, and I can move on. So 3 things to bring back. It's about 12:22. So we'll come back a little bit after 12:30. So if you would like to step away and turn off your video and your sound so that you can find your 3 noticing things, you can do that. And I'm going to call everybody back in around 12:32. Okay. I'm going to breathe a little bit to restart, and then I'm going to sportscast, and I'm going to write in my journal a little bit too. Right now, I'm feeling some gratitude for the snow. We haven't had a lot of snow, and I love how it covers the landscape and actually causes the birds to come in. So right now, I am noticing out of the corner of my eye, and I'm trying not to move, there's an American goldfinch in the window feeder next to me. And the finches here in my yard sit up in the large deciduous trees that, right, all the leaves are gone from right now. And then they flutter down and in. And I just noticed as a bunch of them came in, how they tumbled out of the sky. So that flight pattern of finches is very different as they come in. It can be this tumbling pattern, or maybe some of you know this from the finch family, right? They do this. And when they shoot across the backyard to the feeder, there's this undulating dipping before they land in this very large spruce that we have right out in my backyard. I'm going to slowly turn. Hi, goldfinch. And off. So they're staging in the tree right now, and I'm noticing they're pretty puffed up. Ooh, here comes northern cardinal, who has grabbed a seed and is now just spinning it in its beak. Ooh, there goes the shells. Cool, cool. So the finches aren't as puffed up as they were this morning. It's a little bit warmer maybe than it was before, or maybe they're not, maybe the wind has died down. I'm like, now I'm watching the tree to see if the wind is right down, because I'm wondering why that goldfinch that's at the feeder now looks so comfortable and not poofed up. Ooh, and here comes another one. That one's fluffed. Somebody's been nice and warm. So one of the things I've learned about finches from watching the American goldfinch over and over again at our feeder, there was one year where a couple of them came in and they had snow attached to their feathers, still like stuck. And that's a wondering, like, I wonder why. And that's a really nice prompt to include in your journal, is just a starting point. I wonder, right? So you can get past it's a finch, or maybe it's a small bird with black wings, kind of a grayish belly. I'm not sure what it is, but I noticed that it has snow stuck to its wing feathers and across its back. And when I did a little research, I found out that there are two ways that goldfinches will roost together in the winter. One is to find a big stand of conifers and stay together in the cover of those conifers. But I had to do a little bit more research because I was wondering, why would you have snow stuck to your back? And it turns out that sometimes when things are really, fight, they're jockeying for position at the feeder. Sometimes it turns out when there isn't great cover that goldfinches will do like ruffed grouse, and they'll go and bury in the snow. So they'll make the little snow caves. And so I was wondering, is that what's left over from them being in the snow, in a snow cave, and having the snow melt on their body? I'm noticing the notched tail of this one goldfinch at the window feeder as it hangs off the edge and picks at some of the small millet seeds that I've put out for it. And the wings cross over like this in the back of the bird. I can see that because its tail is down. I almost want to sketch that. Sketch the notch in the tail. One of the participants, and I don't know if she's here, Sally, Sally shared in the bird families class last night that when she's been sitting on her sit spot, sometimes she just gives herself one thing to notice or to pay attention to. Like maybe today is tail day. Maybe another day is like wing day. I'm going to test myself and see if I can draw wings that are crossed. And that's not bad. You know, drawing can be really intimidating and feel really uncomfortable sometimes. I want to encourage you to try it just for you. Just do it for you. When we do that, we're engaging the right side of our brain, the creative side of our brain. And what's wonderful about that is it creates a whole different set of connection in terms of memory and knowing than when we just study things book-wise or internet-wise, so to speak. I'm wondering if I can shift slowly and see if anybody else is on the ground. I had a dark-eyed junco come into the tray feeder. All right, we've got gray squirrel out there, is now at the base of the spruce, getting some different seeds there himself or herself. Northern cardinal doesn't seem to be around. This is where I wonder, where do you go? Where do you go when you're a bird to get cover during the winter storm? Checking to see if the rest of the goldfinch flock are up in the upper trees. I have a few at the feeders now, and they're all sitting. One of the other lenses that I've been looking at birds through is a taxonomic lens. I just finished a class on bird families. And I know that I categorize birds while I'm looking at them, but I really didn't think too much about those scientific families too much. And then as we started to get into our studies, it's been really kind of fun to see what's common through all of the finches and what's common with like the family of Paridae, the chickadees and the, oop, here comes some more chickadees and the titmice, that family. No nuthatches today. I wonder why I don't have any nuthatches. That's kind of interesting. I'm gonna write that down. So I got some drawings and putting a little bit of metadata in here about temperature, and wow, snowfall is really going to affect 10 plus inches. What's out there? It's overcast. And there's a little bit of wind. All right. Oh, I'm looking, so I'm cruising the chat to see if anybody's putting stuff in the chat during our 10-minute solo time here. And we've got doves, we've got people noticing pine siskins for the first time. Nice. That's in that finch family too. All those cousins and kin. A giant spruce. Cheryl's got a giant spruce tree I call Dove Cove because of the many mourning doves that wait out the weather. You know, that's fascinating because the spruce tree that we have in our backyard, this one side is very dead. There's a lot of dead branches. And then the other side of it, interestingly enough, was where all the needles still are. And the mourning doves this morning were in all the dead branches. And I thought, why would you perch there when you can get up in under the needles of the tree? And maybe it was just because the wind was coming from, or not coming from the direction of that side of the tree. Do you have any doves up there right now? I don't think so. All right, we are at 12:32. So I'm going to pause and I'm going to invite people back in. Welcome back. It's fun that some of you left your videos on while you were doing your little solo sit because I could see you. Martha, I'm thinking I can see you on the screen right now. Hi. And watching you in your space observing. Oh, good. So please feel free to put in what you notice. And I want you to go beyond just the species that you noticed. So if you turned off your audio or your video, I got my metadata in across the top a little bit. I don't have the date in there yet. It's like 2/4/22. I started drawing. I noticed at the feeder that I had the goldfinches at the feeder, right? Sometimes you just get like one thing and it's kind of like, how do we make the most of that time with that bird, right? Instead of being like, meh, it's goldfinches, there's nothing much else there. What do I do with that? Well, you let those questions flow and you watch and you notice and you try to tap into a thread of curiosity there. And so for me, it really was, oh, I get to see your tail up close. I get to see your wings up close and how they were. Oh, look, I can do it with my fingers crossed over in the back. Deborah M., you just held up your drawing. I love it. Very nice. Little sketch work there. Let's see what else. So 3 things that are not about identification. I love it. Haley says, red-bellied woodpecker works from the side of the suet cage to keep one eye on the sky? Question mark? I wonder, right? So some resources that I like to go to when I have these wonderings and I capture them in my journal because I want to stay in the moment with the bird as long as I can, right? Resist the urge to pull your phone out and be like, I got to figure out what this behavior is, right? So let that go and stay with the birds as long as you possibly can. A good 20 plus minutes is really good, especially when you go outside. It allows the birds to come back in, but write those things down that I wonder, this reminds me of, or I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of. Those are three really great prompts to use. You can come back to things like All About Birds online or Birds of the World to help you with some of those questions about how do they behave when they're at the feeder, trying to watch out for other things. All right, what else do we have? No birds at the feeder, none in the trees, so I watch the snowfall. Perfect, right? How does it sit on different branches, right? It makes me then start to wonder, right, where do they go? One of these days, I'm going to go out and follow them and figure it out. Nancy says, I watched a ruffed grouse. Stop it. Really? Watched a ruffed grouse come in. Now it's making a hole in the snow and settling in. Very skittish. And then it returned to the woods. Oh, that's like magical. Wow. Good stuff. What else are people noticing? 5 juncos on the floor of the deck. And see the comments are coming in so fast, I can't keep up. 5 comments of 5 juncos on the floor of the deck before them, mourning doves all on the deck. So I'm curious, Susan, is your deck shoveled? We shoveled out a little spot for where we could put some seed down, and the birds have been dropping into that pretty nicely. I also took all the Christmas trees from all my neighbors and we piled them up in the backyard to create a little bit of brush piles and things like that. Jane notices goldfinches fighting together, right? So these are some different types of behaviors. Ooh, what was that we can notice? I have a brush pile, like far edge of my yard out that way is where the brook also comes in. And there was just a little flurry of activity over there and I can't see what it was. All right, I'm gonna scroll down for messages. Junco party below my kitchen window where I threw seed down. I've been collecting neighborhood trees and putting them in my backyard as well. I get messages now from my neighbors. They're like, you're gonna come and get my tree? I'm like, yep. Or we send one of the kids down. They're dragging trees down the street into the neighborhood. Yeah, Deborah, still no birds. They must be hiding somewhere to stay warm. You know, this is the other thing that I've discovered in my yard, in my neighborhood. 2 neighbors over is where there's a large hedgerow of cedars. And that's where a lot of the bird sound that I can hear is coming from. Ooh, is anyone outside? I'm like curious about bird sound. Did anybody notice bird sound? House fit, just look at that. Monique's on it with the singing. I heard as I was filling up the feeders today, cardinal. I just woke, I know, I'm sorry. I just woke up my cat. But that was a new vocalization on the landscape. And I thought, okay, I've got to go back and figure out, what is that vocalization about? Is that pairing? Is that a contact call? Like, what is that? So I have that wondering hanging out here. And okay, good. You can hear the birds through the window. I would love to have my windows open, but they're all kind of cocked closed because we have a good amount of draft through these windows. So I can't slide them open anymore. There's some folks that are working on some really cool speakers to have like a Bluetooth kind of setup where there's a microphone outside and coming in. Some of them are on the market. I haven't played around with any of them yet. Okay, so yeah, this is a challenge. Condos, right, where you can't have bird feeders, like how else can you look and listen? Nita says, I can hear the goldfinches twittering around, and as they flutter, right, that sound of the wings, that's another beautiful type of part of the soundscape that we can listen to and find joy in and focus on. You know, again, thinking about how we bird traditionally, it's in order to kind of clinch an identification. What if we allow ourselves time to observe without that intent? And what else do we hear? And what else are we able to notice and be exposed to if the main intention is not identification. Awesome. All right. Other thoughts? Titmouse just joined the party. Good. Goldfinches here too. People can hear stuff through the windows. Awesome. And I see Nancy's got her binoculars up right now, looking and enjoying. Good stuff. All right. Finding that stillness. Birds at the bird bath. Oh, wow. Laura, where are you that you can have a bird bath right now? My heated one, I have not plugged in yet because it's been so frigid out. And I'm looking forward to being able to do that. You're in California. I love it. All right. So I want to thank you all for joining me again today. I hope this practice is something that you can continue to develop and kind of take with you to different places. I'm really hoping to do some, yes, baby monitor. Oh, sorry. I'm like, it's like watching the chat at the same time as like twitching birds, right? A bird goes by and you're on it. And it's the same thing with the chat. I did set up a baby monitor for a while outside the window, and it worked pretty well. So you can do that, especially if you have there's like a nice thin cord to the baby monitor. I just closed the window down on that cord. So what I'm hoping to do, throughout the year, with this First Fridays is not just do it at my sit spot here, but also try to be out in different sites. I have a couple of favorite deer stands that I would like to take you to that are a town or two over, to sit up in the trees, right? That's another thing. The other piece that I want to share with you too is, and I didn't, so right behind me, there's a little, you can see that over my shoulder. This is one of the things that we keep really close by. This is like a little poster from Project Feeder Watch. Some of you might do this, but it's one that you can download really easy online and just put up near your space. So maybe you have your backyard big year list. How do you find things that can support you in your cozy sit spot space? That little kind of one pager to feeder birds is really wonderful. And then the last thing that I want to share with you before we sign off together today is my next Intro to Slow Birding course is coming up. And so this is a little bit of a deeper dive. I'm taking 20 participants now. We're going to expand the group size. That starts March 4th. You get an email once a week. And then we have a discussion with folks that are in the class once a week together as well to share stories and discoveries and things. And I'll take you through like a 5-week process of kind of setting yourself up for shifting your birding practice into something that's a little bit slower, a little bit more mindful, and based on this sit spot method as well. So take a look at that. I know some of you have taken that before. The other teaser that I'll throw out to you that I don't have a link for yet, but is coming for those of you who are in the Northeast, I think it's the last weekend of April. The folks at Farm and Wilderness and the Nineveh Foundation that are down in Plymouth, Vermont, are going to be inviting you all to come to a slow birding weekend with me for 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I'll be putting that up on my website soon. This is an in-person opportunity to kind of deepen your practice again in the field with other folks. And I'm really looking forward to getting together with people again. Please know that you can reach out to me at any time with questions or emails, just like some of you did this morning. It was really lovely before we gathered today to be like, oh, I'm thinking about sitting here. Does this work? Yes, of course it works. Wherever you are comfortable, birds are kind of everywhere. I mean, man, maybe I'll do a downtown St. Albans sit spot live in an urban area. I know Ronique, who's on this session too. Yeah, Ronique does a lot of urban birding stuff, and I've had some amazing things happen to me just birding in our downtown um, area here in northwestern Vermont. So again, thank you all so much for joining me. I think we topped out at about 75 people, which is great. Please check back in and keep practicing. Slow down, take that moment. I mean, get cozy and enjoy those birds that are out there right outside your door. Take care, you guys. I will see you next month, if not sooner.